welcome back to my channel. My name is Kelsey and I'm here today to do my June wrap-up. So listen, I know that I didn't post a May wrap-up. We're not going to talk about it. Like I said, I've been very busy, and when I filmed that, I looked like a depresso espresso, and I don't want to edit that. So we're gonna jump right into June with some statistics. Before we begin, I do want to mention that I have 6 books that won't appear in this wrap-up. I did a secret vlog, and that video should be coming either before or after this one. So we will go into statistics for the entire month, including those 6 books, and then the wrap-up portion will just be about the other 6 books. So let's get started. In terms of books I read 12 books this month. I had 1 5-star read, 6 4-star reads, 4 3-star reads, and 1 2-star read, 0 1-stars, and 0 DNFs, which is great. And that came out to an average of 3.7, which is fantastic. I read a total number of 4,120 pages this month, and that came out to about 137 pages per day. In regards to the gender of the authors, I read 10 female authors this month and 2 male authors. 2 of those books are aimed for adults, 10 of which are aimed for a YA audience. And then in terms of format, I read 3 audiobooks, 1 ebook, and 8 physical books off my TBR. So let's get into it. The first book I read this month, I obviously had to read Heartstopper Volume 4 as soon as it came in the mail. I have been waiting for this volume. So if you don't know what Heartstopper is about, this graphic novel series written by Alice Oseman follows 2 boys, Nick and Charlie. Charlie is out at their all-boys grammar school, and Nick believes he's straight. The 2 meet and become fast friends, and as you can imagine, their love story evolves from there. So I don't want to go too much into details because this is the 4th volume of the series, but I will say that I absolutely adored this. This was my 5 out of 5 stars this month. As with every installment in the series, I feel so joyous finishing a volume that I immediately want to cry happy tears. Obviously, I really love Nick and Charlie as main characters. They are both so wholesome and cute, but they also have a lot of amazing friends. Like, everyone around them is just wholesome and wonderful and amazing. This book also tackled a subject matter that is extremely difficult, so I do want to give trigger warnings for mental health and eating disorders, but I do want to say I really appreciated how Oseman handled it. And also, a minor, it's not really a spoiler, but like Tori Spring, Charlie's sister in this volume, a queen. A queen. The next book I read is an arc called Cool for the Summer, and this is written by Dahlia Adler. Cool for the Summer follows a young woman named Lara who has had eyes for one boy and one boy only, Chase Harding. He is the football star. He is strong. He is talented. He is everything. And after years of having a huge crush on him, Chase finally asks Lara out. Except Lara is still haunted by a memory. It is a confusing, romantic, loving memory about a summer she spent with a girl named Jasmine. This was a really cute and fun contemporary that did have moments that were heartfelt and warming. And I do want to say that because it follows a bisexual teenager, I really wish that I had this book when I was a teenager. Lara is pretty much who I was in high school, and I too was extremely confused about my sexuality for a really long time. The way Adler pinpointed exactly how confusing that this experience is felt really real. It made me cry when Lara was speaking about her feelings to her mother, and it really struck a chord with me overall. I also really appreciated how the romance portion of the novel is split between the 2 love interests pretty evenly. There is a then from the summer before school and then a now during school, and I usually always love one love interest over another. I think I always pick the fairly obvious choice, but in this book I genuinely really enjoyed both of the love interests, even though it was still really obvious who was endgame. But there was definitely some like cringe-worthy writing in the book, and some of the characters were a tad annoying. At this point, I'm just not sure if this is the way YA contemporary is written and I've just grown out of it, but I did find myself rolling my eyes quite often at the cheesy writing. But still, I do want to mention that I think this book is really, really, really important for young queer women, and it means a lot to have read an experience similar to mine. It just wasn't the perfect book for me, and I ended up giving it a 3 stars. The next book I read is Jane Unlimited by Kristen Kishore. This is a very confusing book. Essentially, it follows a girl named Jane whose aunt recently passed away. Her aunt has always given her one kind of thing to keep in mind. It's that if she ever gets invited to this mansion called Surevie, she must go. When Jane has the opportunity to do so, she is whisked into this like really weird, surrealist mansion, and she kind of has to solve a couple of mysteries. By that synopsis, you can probably guess that I didn't feel too keen about this book. I do want to say though that if you love weird experimental shit, I think you'll really like this book. The structure of this book is the thing I found the most interesting about the book, and it really adds to the book's overall theme. And if you would read it, you would like kind of understand what I'm saying. But the theme of the novel and the way that the book is structured is super interesting. However, I think the book's main downfall and puts me off Kristen Cashore quite a bit is the writing style. For the first couple of pages, I was really thrown off by the awkward point of view. The POV perspective felt so out of place from the reader that I really couldn't care about Jane, but even any other character in the book. They were mysterious, yes, which I think granted is the point of the book, but I just didn't care about them. And because each chapter revolves around one of the mysteries of the mansion, you are told different things about different characters, but then when they no longer appear anymore or the story shifts into this other narrative, the characters therefore feel unnecessary, so I don't really care about them in the end. The characters, additionally, were just quirky for the sake of being quirky. Again, I want to reiterate that I think if you like experimental weird shit, you would like this, but the writing for me personally was just too hard to get into, and I ended up giving this a 2 stars. The next book I read was a reread for me, and this is The Last Magician by Lisa Maxwell. I love this book. So in this world, there is a group of people called the Magus, and they are able to kind of like use magic, so they can like manipulate what is going on around them, but they are all kind of trapped on Manhattan Island by this thing called the Brink. The Brink was created by the Order to keep all Magus people within one area, and if they were to leave the Brink, then they would die because they would be like severely affected by what the Brink is doing. The book mainly follows a girl named Esta, and Esta's talent, magic, is that she is able to manipulate and control time. Esta has been training her whole entire life to travel back into time and kind of ruin the Order from the inside, and she is told one thing: when she goes back to 1922, she has to stop the Last Magician. Right off the bat, I'm gonna say I give this 4.5 stars. I love this book. I've read it twice now. I think it is absolutely fucking fantastic. The first time I gave this book, I gave it a 4.5 stars, and when I reread it, I was like, absolutely. This book is great. The atmosphere is so captivating. The characters are so fascinating. I love a good old-fashioned setting in New York, so obviously this appeals to me. And Maxwell's writing is so engaging. I cannot be critical or like objectively review this book because I just think Lisa Maxwell's writing is the greatest YA fantasy writing that I've read in a long time. And the twists that this book has, I can't deal with this. This book was just as good as I read it the first time. I do have the second book in this series, which is why I decided to go for a reread for this, and I cannot wait to continue. I'm really hoping the second book is just as good as the first one, and yeah, I would highly recommend. This is super underrated, and I think it's absolutely amazing, so please pick it up if you haven't. Next, I picked up a non-fiction book. This is We Have Always Been Here by Samra Habib. This essentially follows Samra's life from growing up as an Ahmadi Muslim in Pakistan to moving to Canada and dealing with a whole other host of challenges. Samra does an amazing job of exploring faith, queerness, grief in this really short but impactful memoir, and a memoir that I really loved. Habib's writing is both raw and beautiful as she describes her lives back in Pakistan and here in Canada. Her strength on deciding who she is and who she has become was so profound. I completely flew through this book. I was listening to it on audio, and I think Habib's narration was fantastic, and I absolutely could not get enough of her voice. Habib did not shy away from talking about everything that she's been through, but once Habib started to find her queer identity and the spaces to which she finds home in, I knew this book was going to be one that I recommend to a lot of people. Habib was really able to capture the beauty in life. Habib was really able to capture the beauty in her life, which is really fitting because I found out that she is a pretty well-known photographer, so she's always kind of like looking at the beautifulness to life. I do think this book would help a lot of people because they can identify with Habib, identify with struggling between queerness and faith, and share in the beauty of her story. I ended up giving this 4 stars. I would highly recommend this. It was nominated for one of Canada Reads. I think it's a brilliant memoir. Next, I read Loveless by Alice Oseman. This is the same author that wrote the Heartstopper series, and this is their 4th prose novel rather than a graphic novel, but this follows Georgia. Georgia has never been in love, never kissed someone, never even had a crush, but she is a fanfic obsessed romantic and knows that she will find the one she's looking for one day. As she starts university with her best friends Pip and Jason, Georgia is ready to find romance with her outgoing roommate and this new club she started called the Shakespeare Society. Georgia is ready for the ultimate university experience. So I do want to say straight off the bat that I cannot speak for the Arrow Ace representation in this book, but I do know that it is quite a very close and hard story for Alice Oseman to have written, but I would recommend looking to Own Voices reviews on the Arrow Ace representation. For me, I overall really enjoyed the reading experience of this book. The characters felt very real to me, like I was listening to friends talking to one another, talking over one another. I think the characters in this book were really funny, and overall I enjoyed how they were discovering their sexualities and how the novel really emphasized finding love within friendships and finding love within found families as well. But besides the overall themes of the novel, the plot was not overly engaging and it didn't really keep my attention. It followed a usual comedy of errors, usual miscommunication, and I think, as I mentioned previously with Cool for the Summer, I don't think I vibe with YA contemporary novels that much anymore. It still had Alice Oseman's cheerful undertones and easy writing, so it was a quick and fun read, and I would still recommend it. I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. And lastly, the final book I read this month, this is The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Junauda Petrus, and this follows two young women. One of them is named Audrey, and she is from the port of Spain in Trinidad. She is sent back to live with her father in Minneapolis after her strictly religious mother caught her in a secret relationship with the pastor's daughter. Back in Minneapolis, 16-year-old Mabel is trying to figure out her own sexuality. Audrey and Mabel's lives collide when their parents essentially make them become friends. Mabel falls very hard and very fast for Audrey, but their romance takes a turn when Mabel discovers something serious going on with her health. This book was so fucking beautiful and I fucking cried. Primarily, both Audrey and Mabel were fantastic characters. They had distinguishable voices and distinguishable stories that were all their own. And while I'll never come to experience what both of these girls have gone through, Petrus was able to pull at my heartstrings and made me feel like I was in the minds of these two characters. Like I felt like I was going through this. Additionally, I loved how this book focused on familial relationships. And if you know me and if you know the books I like to read, I am a sucker for family stories. And the friendships between Audrey, Mabel, and their friends, perfection, unmatched. I love how it emphasized acceptance and individuality and how they were all there for one another. The element that I loved the most in this book was actually the magical element, which I looked in some reviews that people said they didn't really enjoy, but I did. It is present throughout the book, like here and there, but the full emphasis is shown at the end, and I'm the bitch, a bitch fucking sobbed, okay? This book is Petrus's love letter to the empowerment of young Black women, and it is hands down a super fantastic read. For this book, I would also recommend looking at Own Voices reviews for the Trinidadian rep. Even though this book is written by an Own Voices author, some reviewers have said the representation of Trinidad is a bit outdated, so I would recommend looking to Own Voices reviews on that matter. But for me, I really enjoyed this, and I ended up giving it a 4 stars. And these are half of the books I read in the month of June. Please let me know down below if you've read any of these books, what you like about them, what you don't like about them. I love talking to people. I always leave a link down below to my Goodreads, Instagram, and Twitter if you would like to follow me there. And don't forget to please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. It does wonders for my channel and makes me feel really good. And I don't know how to end these things. I always feel awkward, so I guess I will see you next time. Bye!